let's get ready for Nassim Nkatha. Just a second. Okay, Nassim is there she is. Hi, Nassim. Hi.
I'm fine. How are you doing?
I'm very well. Can you hear and see me clearly? I can see you and I
Yes,
can hear
can
you.
you hear and see me clearly?
Yes. You are loud and clear. And I'm just trying to position my camera properly because I think it's not straight. I think that's better. Yes. Yeah, there you go. Awesome. Fantastic. Nassim Nkatha, karibu sana to Know Thy Therapists. I am very happy to have you here. How was your day? How are you doing today? How is everything on your end?
My day was good, productive, I'd say. Yes.
Uh-huh.
So I'm grateful for how the day has turned out.
Yeah.
Yeah, how was your day?
Oh, it was awesome. I spent a huge part of it sleeping and napping because I know, yes, I'm living the life.
I know, right?
It was no, it is. It actually is very nice. It was very nice. I had a wonderful day and I'm very happy. I'm glad that you're here. I was just waiting for a few people to join, and I can see we have Shiha, Habira. Habira. Yes, Habira. Sorry, I'm butchering your name. Sorry, I'm butchering your name. It's not intentional. All right, awesome.
That's a very good friend of mine, by the way.
Sorry?
He is a very good friend of mine from uni. So.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you so much for joining and supporting Habira. I appreciate your presence here. Fantastic. So, tell me how, other than your day, you've said that your day was really good, but I'm wondering how your entire week has been and how you've been managing the entire week. It's always good to have a big picture idea of the week compared to the day. What has that been experience for you?
Hectic, I won't lie. Let me put my phone on D&D because I'm getting texts. Better. You can hear me? Yes, so my week has been hectic. I feel like I need a break, like a long vacation, but we push regardless. So yes, it has been hectic, but so far hectic and productive, which I feel like it's a good combination. So we push regardless again. How has your week been?
Oh, mine has been fantastic. I'm telling you, I've been having the time of my life. We have already landed in December and it's Christmas time already. So every day we are preparing to have days where all days feel very happy and lively, and Christmas is my happiest time. So I really enjoy that time of the year. So this is already starting out as a wonderful month. I'm very grateful and happy. Yeah, so I think this is a good time for us to get started with the live officially. And a good place for us to start with this live is for you to introduce yourself to the audience and tell us a bit about who is Nassim Nkatha. We know you're a psychologist from the poster, but tell us a bit more about being a psychologist and what credentials you have in that field of being a psychologist.
So my name is Nassim Nkatha, like you mentioned. I'm a psychologist by profession, to which I've practiced for over 7 years now, because I started practicing when I was still in uni in third year. So I started my internship in uni before the year of internship. So I gained a few experiences here and there. So I've done a bit of quality rights. I've done HIV and counseling. But my main focus is mainly psychology, counseling and dealing with clients. Other than that, I also run a mental health organization whereby we focus mainly on creating awareness around mental health, and our main focus is on the youths. So yes, aside from being a psychologist, I also run a mental health organization.
How did you end up starting the mental health organization? What's the story behind that, and what is the name of the organization? I know there are people who don't know.
The name of the organization is called HUGS, Hardiness Unearth Great Success. So in a letter, Juna hugs, the act of hugging. So how much time do you have for me to tell you how I started it?
We have all the time in the world, I promise. Give us details.
So,
We love details.
So let me start with where the idea came from. In uni, we had this course called Senex. So Senex class was to prepare for theirs into the outside world. So we do mock interviews, we talk about the future, where you see yourself in terms of your career and so on. So from that class, I had this idea of starting a mental health consultancy. But then again, my plan was I'll work. Then after maybe 5 or 6 years of working, I retire, get enough funds, and start the organization. So that's where the whole idea came in. So fast forward, 2018, after graduating, I was working, but then I was still working at Mathari. I got a job. I don't know if you've heard of Doctors Without Borders. Yes, so I got a job at Mogadishu. So I had to quit. When you're in the medical field, you need like a longer time to quit, like at least 30 days to quit, so that you can help your client to transition to the new therapist and everything. But I didn't have that time to do that because the job came impromptu, ilikuja tu by surprise. So I had to quit haraka without the proper process of it. So after quitting, I prepared to travel. Everything was fine. 2018 was a time where we were told we need the new green passport. So I had to apply for that. It was, the whole process was ready, got my visa and everything. And I was to travel on a Friday, start work on a Monday. So that week that I was to travel, I think it was on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, midweek. It happened to be in Mogadishu, the camp that was to go to, the neighboring camp got bombed. So it meant I didn't have to, I can't travel now. So meaning the sponsors pulled out and I couldn't travel. So now I'm here. I don't have a job. I can't go back to Mathari because they were left. And the whole process of getting a job in Kenya, how it is. So 2018, to be honest, was my worst year in terms of depression, because now my parents had taken me to a very good school. And now here I am at home. I don't have a job. I felt like a burden. And one of the leading causes of suicide is feeling like a burden and isolation. So for me, I was now in that gateway period of almost getting suicidal ideations, because now I was like, okay, now what next? Like, I feel like my parents twisted them, and I was in a very expensive uni. So I felt like all that, and now I'm home. I'm now a burden again. They have to take care of me. They have to, so it was bad. So I think my mom noticed that. And by then, I remember Sakaja. By then he was a senator. He came on telly, talked about his office, where his office is, and my mom went to his office to ask for a job for me. So they planned a meeting. I was asked to go to their office. So I didn't meet with the senator. I met with one of the workers there. His name is Soedi Issa. So when I met with him, before I met with him, he called me, told me to carry my papers and whatnot. I thought I was going for an interview. So I carried my paper, like a whole file of my credentials and everything, and I went. So he goes through my papers and he's like, so why are you looking for a job? And I was like, wait, what? What do you mean? In my head, I was like, I don't want to start I want to live good. I want some money and whatnot. So he went through my papers and was like, why don't you start your own thing? And I was like, I have an idea of that. But then again, the capital, I've just graduated. I haven't saved up anything. I had some few savings, but it wasn't, enough to start like a whole organization. So I was like, with how I'm viewing the organization, whatever I have, it's so little to even register with it, because, registration was too expensive, and even the saver that I had at that time couldn't reach that. So the guy gave me a challenge. Was like, for the whole of this month, every Friday we'll be meeting and we'll be building up to your organization. So we started off by coming up with a constitution for the organization, like, the whole constitution and everything, come up with names, come up with objectives, come up with visions and everything. So I did that for the whole of that month. I kept on going with, different ideas and everything. And the good thing that office did for me is, one, they didn't give me funds to start the organization, but they connected me with lawyers that helped us register, to which the process was easier and cheaper. And that's how now Hugs started. So it started with no funds. So I reached out to a few friends of mine from uni. Hugs is run by youths only, and these youths are mainly people I went with in uni. So we formed a board, and we started now, hear me?
You're back. You had frozen.
Yes, so now so from the group of guys, we started the board members and everything. So till to date, Hugs is funded by the board. So that's how the whole idea came, and that's how we started the organization. So we started around 2019, around December there. 2020, we did our first mental health event. So other than just, creating awareness, we create awareness through mental health events too. So yes, so we did our first event, and we're here. We partnered with amazing organizations like Chiromo, IMAX, NRG Radio, PSG, like Red Bull, Red Cross, so it's amazing. So far to say we're cruising nicely. We're not where we want to be yet, but we are almost there. We've created opportunities for a lot of, counselors that have worked with us as volunteers, some as, part-time on a contract and everything. So far so good. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. That's quite an amazing journey. I'm very curious how it has been for you personally running an organization. You have a background in psychology, and then now you are not just a psychologist, but you're also a business owner to a degree. How has it been for you doing those two things at the same time, and also working with a board, managing expectations, dealing with a team, having employees when they're coming in as you said, volunteers and sometimes on contract? Walk us through that entire business side of being a psychologist, and you're not trained from a business background.
Okay, so other than the psychology background, when I was graduating around 2017, like I told you, I started my internship in Mathari, like when I was in third year, first semester. So by the time I was graduating, I got another opportunity to go at RMS, Royal Media, where Citizen TV is at and everything. So I worked there as HR. I worked there under, the HR docket. I had amazing bosses, and the bosses there trained me on how to manage, how to, register in new employees, how to file, all these things. And so I got a little experience in HR from there. I had amazing bosses. Akina Sami Kigo were really amazing. So they walked me through the whole process. So it's more like I got training from Royal Media in terms of how to run and how to manage a business from a HR perspective. Other than that, with our board members, we have members from different fields. So I'm not the only one who runs Hugs. So everyone knows their field and they know what they need to do. We have a board member who's done IBA, who's majored in business. So when it comes to proposals, when it comes to how to manage the business and everything, we have someone who does that. We have another person still on the board whose main career is HR. So other than the little, knowledge I have in HR, he mainly covers everything in terms of employment, in terms of recruitment of new, volunteers and so on. So we have, I'd say, when you look at us, maybe from our social media, you'll think we're like a big organization, but we're not. The thing is, we're very organized in the sense that everyone knows their role and they know what they need to do. So I'm not the only one who does it. So there's certain, we have a lot of people who do different things. We also have someone in the board who's mainly focuses on research, and he's based in London. So he has a very broad experience when it comes to research. Because one thing about Hugs is every year we focus on something. 2020 we focused on GBV. 2021 we focused on learning disorders. 2022 we focused on environment and mental health. I'm hoping the year that is coming, God willing, we'll be focusing on rehabilitation. So before we work on something, we normally do a research, because one thing that I'm very heavy on is relevance. How relevant is this topic that we're focusing on, or this thing that we're focusing on? So before we do that, we need to do some research, we need to do some survey, see what community is, how the community is in terms of that specific topic, and then we engage in it. So yes, so even on the board, we also have someone who specifies on research. So I'm not the only one. I'm backed up by a group of amazing young people. Yes.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. You're literally the walking personified version of teamwork makes the dream work,
Yeah.
because now it's not
Teamwork.
just one individual. Yeah, it's not one person running the show. It's a team of people who are running the show because they all want the same thing, and that sounds amazing. I'm curious about how you've been able to find such good people to work with. What is it? What is it that is a marker of somebody who would make a good team member, for you to be able to find people that you can actually work with together? Because you can meet anybody, you can meet friends, you can meet people that are already in your circle and decide to work with them, but just because you know somebody does not mean that they're going to be good business partners, or they're going to be a good person to run an organization with. So for you personally, how did you end up what are the key markers of knowing people who will be good for your organization, people that you can bring in to work with you either as board members or as employees? What are some of the things that you look for in case somebody's thinking of getting some people together and forming a group practice that like you have?
So for me, it's not even just for people I work with. It's also for people that I might partner with in terms of projects that we're doing. The main thing is you get people who have the same objectives or the same ambition as you, in the sense that you're working towards the same thing. You get like people who understand what your dream is, and you know what the goal is. Because if you find people who you don't have the same drive, you don't have the same ambition, you'll find there's always be, you know, kidogo issues. Like you'll always be utakuwa nasema hivi wanasema hivi, so you'll never go on the same way. There'll always be like multiple roads towards, you know, your path. So find someone that you have the same ambition, you have the same dream with, you know, you have the same vision with, and that way it becomes easier for you to work with them. The same thing applies to even partners. You know, at times, like I said, we do a lot of events, so it means we need to partner with certain organizations, with certain groups, with certain people. So if I go to that meeting and I realize we don't have the same objective and we don't have the same, you know, end line, you know, in terms of what we're doing, I always pull out, because at the end of the day, even that, whatever it is that we're working on, it won't work, because itakuwa inafika katikati, whoever hasn't done what they were supposed to do. And for me, the thing that I'm heavy on is I don't like following up on people. If you know what you're supposed to do, you need to do it, and that comes from passion and that objective and that, you know, drive. So find people who have the same vision as you, so it makes things easier, you know, moving forward.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic answer, because when you're working with you know that Bible verse that says two cannot walk together unless they are, what is it supposed to be? Unless they are equally yoked. Yes, unless they are equally yoked. That's the verse. So I agree with you. You have to find people who have not necessarily the same dream, but at least they have the same goal. So you know we are all working towards the same thing, and the conflicts of interest become lesser. Friction becomes lesser because we are all working towards the same thing. Why would we be fighting? So I really like that. I really like that. I want to read a few comments here and acknowledge some people who have just joined. I can see Wise Clinton is here with us. Thank you, Wise, for joining. Marianne Maruguru. Thank you, Marianne, for coming through. Marianne is asking, which school is it that you went to that had senates? So they want to know which school this is, and we can't wait to hear it. Tell us the uni. That this is becoming a chant now. And who else is here? Jeremiah is here. Frasha is here. Frasha Masika. Ikariga, I think, if I'm not wrong. Marianne is saying she started something with friends, and let's say ilibaki kwa story. Marianne, I hope you have gotten some feedback on that point, that you have to find people that you're equally yoked, people who are going on the same direction as you, so that you don't have to spend so much time trying to convince people to join your journey. Because if you have to spend a lot of time convincing people to join you, then you spend less time actually doing the work that you want to do, and that takes you away from the work. So I hope you've gotten something there. As you consider telling us which school had Senate, so that people can apply, tell us a bit about how you ended up in a counseling class, in a psychology class. Like, what got you there? What is the story behind you becoming a psychologist? We're very curious about that.
So when I finished high school, sorry, I digress a lot. So if I digress, please pull me back. So when I finished high school, I did TAT, it was in travel at Utalii. So I wanted something to back up the tours and travel course. So I joined USIU to do IR, International Relations. So when I joined the uni, USIU has this policy of major, minor, and concentration. So you need to do a course that you're majoring in. You need to do a course that you can minor in, like a few courses in the all through your, for the year and everything. And then now you need to concentrate on something. So when I joined uni, I knew very well I wanted to do IR to back up my tours and travel. And I needed to minor in psychology, because again, with IR, if I'm doing, traveling with people and everything, I need to know social psychology, I need to understand them and everything. And then I wanted to do diplomacy. So when I joined uni, the first year is always common units. So you do Akina English 101, blah, blah, blah. And then now second year, you start now your majors. So when I was getting to second year, we had career advisors. So you registered a class through a career advisor. Yes, so now it happened to be I nilichelewa kuregister for my majors and everything. So for you to start a major, you need there are courses they called prerequisites. So you needed like IR 101 to start with, so that you can continue the courses. So it happened to be that class was full. So my course advisor told me I have two options. Either I get on my minor, I'd pick any course on my minor because the minor courses didn't need prerequisites, or I do 3 units, and then it means I would have to graduate at a later time. I'd have to graduate, instead of the day I was to graduate, I'd take longer to graduate. So I was like, I know, I don't want to stay in school that long. So I told him, pick me a class in psychology. So the class he picked was developmental psychology. So I went to that class, and it was around a 1 hour, I think 1 hour, 30 minutes class. And I felt like, I don't know if you've ever been to a class and you get this light bulb. I felt like the lecturer was talking about me. I felt like I understood myself better, in terms of the relationships I had with people, what was affecting them and everything. And that was just from one class. And I sat with myself and I was like, what if I actually did this as a major? So immediately after that class, I went back to my course advisor and I was like, I want this unit, I want this course. So they took me through rounds because I had to go for counseling for like 2 weeks to make sure I was of sane mind to change the courses and everything. I had to write a letter to the registrar, tell them I'm changing my units and everything. I feel like they did that, and maybe niboeke katikati, I'd be like, okay, I'm that. This is too much, I won't do it. But I sat through it. I went for counseling for the 2 weeks. I wrote a letter, and my courses were changed. So I started now doing psychology as a major, and since then I've never looked back. I mean, I feel psychology has really changed. It's not just for my clients, it's also for me. It helps me understand myself better. It helps me know my triggers. It helps me, like, I gained self-awareness through the classes that I went to. So yes.
Yeah, that's quite the story, because everybody who has sat through a psychology class, and especially if you've taken psychology as your main area of study, it feels like one constant psychological evaluation. It's like you're in therapy the entire time, and you're just getting things revealed to you every single day. You wake up one morning. First of all, I remember when I sat in abnormal psychology class, I was like, oh my gosh, I have abnormal psychology. This country, this is me. This book was written because of me. And then I was out there diagnosing myself with a million things after I discovered the DSM. And yes, that is literally being in a psychology class, and it's obvious. It's interesting that for you feel that you got so much self-awareness out of it. Other than self-awareness, and maybe even in the self-awareness part, what was the biggest thing that you learned about yourself, or you discovered something surprising you discovered during the course of your study, that you were like, oh, okay, I guess that's my life then. I didn't know this was about me. What was that thing for you?
I don't think I've ever said this out loud, so I feel like this is the first time I'm mentioning this. I realized I'm a very hard person to deal with. Not if you really know me in terms of, like, really know me in terms of those close friends and everything, dealing with me is kidogo hard. I have zero tolerance to certain things that right now I'm learning how to tolerate them. I'm learning my triggers, as I progress and everything. So that's something I came to realize, like, oh, okay. So that explains why people around me are always they always think maybe I'm too emotional, I'm too hard on them, I'm too mean and something. So I started toning that down kidogo. So yes, that is one thing that I came to realize about me, that with people who don't know me, if I've met you once or twice, you'll think like I'm the best person ever. But once you start knowing me vizuri and I'm comfortable with you, then those two things creep out and you realize it's kidogo hard to deal. Like for you to deal with me, you need to take me with, a pinch of salt or something. So yes, that's what I realized about me. But it's something that I'm constantly working on. I feel like everyone works on themselves. So the good thing about self-awareness is you get to know what triggers you to get to that point. And also during those classes, I realized I'm not that way because I want to, but I'm that way because most women don't know this. I have PMDD, the premenstrual dysphoric disorder. So a week before my menses, I'm like the worst person ever. So knowing that, I know how to, because I have a calendar, so I know next week I'll be getting my menses. So this week I need to avoid people. I need to avoid certain chats, certain things. I need to manage myself better and kinder and nicer. So yes, I didn't know about PMDD till I started.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's I'm very curious about when you learned that was something that you have, the being a difficult person to deal with a pinch of salt, according to your own explanation. What was the reaction for you? Were you shocked? Were you angry? Were you frustrated with yourself? Were you like, oh, light bulb, let me do this? Were you excited to find out? What was your reaction to yourself?
Actually, I was actually excited. One thing I tell my clients is it's very hard for you to slay a monster that you don't know. So once you know what is bothering you, once you know what the issue is, it becomes easier for you to deal with. Because for me, you see, I didn't know there were patterns to it. So until now, I used to go for therapy in school. I used to bother my counselor in school. I know if she's watching this, she'll attest to that. So I used to go for therapy every time. If I feel like I'm bored, I'd go for therapy just to talk. And also, I used to go for it so that I can also get to learn what skills she's using, so that I can also try and apply them once I graduate and everything. So during that time is when I realized I actually have PMDD. I'm not just mean or hard to deal with because I want to. It comes with days, it comes with certain time and everything. So I was given a challenge to monitor my menses, monitor my moods and everything. So I started doing the whole mood monitoring and everything. I realized I only get mean or angry or hard to deal with certain weeks, a week before my menses, during my menses, and a week after my menses. So that's when I started researching more on PMDD. And from there, I understood that I had PMDD. The good thing about it is you can self-diagnose. And I now started looking at ways to cope with it, ways to manage it. How can I be kinder and nicer, not just to people, but also to myself? Because during that period, I figured I was very hard on myself. I was very mean with the thoughts that I had and everything. So I realized I need to be more kinder with myself. I'm not doing this because I want to. It's because, of the hormonal imbalance and everything. So I need to live through it. And to be honest, from then to now, if I tell you right now I have PMDD and you see me when I'm about to get on my menses, you won't know it's the same person because I'm more tolerable, I'm more understanding. I'll know I'm not angry at you per se. I'm just angry because of this thing I'm having this period. So Ikisha, I know I'll be back to my normal self. So it doesn't bother me that much. So I know how to handle it way better now that I've known. So when I got to realize it, I was actually very happy. I was amazing. Like I was like, yes, I can now finally start to work on it and start to deal with it. Yes.
Oh yeah, that's amazing. The whole point of insight is for you to act on it. So I'm glad for you that became a reality, that you discovered what was the issue, and you were able to understand it better, understand yourself better, apply self-compassion, of course, and giving yourself the grace that you'd give somebody else, and also learning ways to manage yourself in the presence of this particular experience so that you don't affect other people negatively. Because I think also being aware of what impact you have on other people is a big important part of self-awareness. It's good to know who you are, but also to know what impact you have on other people, how you affect other people, and trying to manage your own emotional area so that you don't affect other people. I think that's fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that. I want to ask about. I know you've mentioned that 2018 was one of those years that was not the bestest, and you've also mentioned that you used to go for personal therapy in school. So I'm wondering if we can bring in the part where you tell us about your own personal experiences with mental health, if you've had any in the past, any mental health experiences, challenges in the past, and how you've dealt with them. And in the process, you can also tell us what your experience has been with personal therapy, even right now as a practicing psychologist, and even before, from the very beginning. Maybe take us through that whole spectrum.
So one key thing I came to realize is, first of all, we all have issues. There's no one out there who will say, I've never been stressed, I've never been depressed. It happens. Especially when I take people through suicidal ideations, I make it a key to mention the two ideations of suicide, active and passive suicidal ideations, whereby active is the one, the risk factors and everything. Passive is whereby I feel like 98% of us, don't quote me on this, but I feel like 98% of the population have gone through it, whereby life has gotten so hard that at one point or another you feel like, manze, it would be better off if I'm not around. And then when that situation ends, you're back to okay, you're back to normal. You don't even progress to the next stage of suicidal, the stages of whereby you started thinking of how to do it and everything. It just ends at that one situation. So I feel like most of us have gone through that. It's just that at times we can be, we are in denial, we don't want to accept it and everything. So everyone goes through a certain period of their life, in time whereby it's hard for them to keep on pushing and everything. One thing I came to realize, the thing that helps for you to, feel well, when you talk about mental wellness, I like incorporating it with the 8 dimensions of well-being. Sorry, if I start inducing therapy, please stop me. So when you talk about the 8 dimension of well-being, it states for you to be well, for you to feel like there's a balance in your life, these 8 areas need to balance. That's why you'll find at times there's someone who has a very good job, a well-paying job, a nice wife or a nice husband, but they're still stressed and they're still depressed. So when you look in from outside, you're like, what is missing? Like, ni nini namsumbua, mbona kona stress and everything. So it means in the 8 dimension, there's a certain area they're neglecting, they're not focusing on, they've not set goals for and everything. So for me, I came to realize, for me to be well, my 8 dimensions need to balance. My spirituality, my leisure, my personality, my finances, my family, my social, all these areas, I need to balance them. So I don't need to focus so much on either career and then I neglect the other. So there's a need for that balance, whereby you balance things and everything. So that is the main thing that I've learned through personal therapy and through dealing with clients, that people need to understand the balance in their 8 dimensions. For them to be well, these areas need to have some sort of balance. Yes. I don't know if I've answered your question.
That's for sure. I'm going to bring you to the point where you tell us your own personal experience of mental health challenges. What has that been like?
Like I said, 2018 was not my best year. And the good thing is, I feel like my mom understood this in some sort of way. So like I said, I was still staying at home. So she asked me if I have a friend I can go hang out with, for a period of time. So by then I had a friend who used to stay around school, and she had also graduated. We had also graduated at the same time, and she was also going through something, that transition. I feel like they don't prepare you well enough when you're about to graduate, that transition period that so may graduate, now what next? So we were all I feel like we were all going through the same thing. So I went to stay with her for a while. So we helped each other. So once she had a background in psychology, I had a background in psychology, so it became easier for us to work together. So one form of self-care that I really used during that time, other than therapy and everything, is who was close to me, my friends. Because one thing is, people we keep around, at times you might feel like you're stressed, you might feel low and everything, and maybe it's just the bad energy around you. So I made sure I surrounded myself with friends that gave me those good vibes and everything. So she really came in handy. She's also a very amazing psychologist. You can check her out. She's called Joan Wanjiru. So you can check her out. She's really amazing. So we helped each other during that period. So that's one constant thing that I did. And also I went for therapy here and there. And through that, I kept myself engaged. So I started doing school talks. I started seeing clients here and there. So yeah, so that came in handy. And also during that period, I was also working on hugs. So I found I was busy doing something that I didn't have time to really pause and think about how things are not working out, because I always looked forward to something. So I had a plan that I was always looking forward to it, like how is it gonna turn out and everything. So that waiting, that drive, it gave me a sense of drive to, let me wait till tomorrow, I see what it will come out, evo. So yeah. So that
I think that's really good. There's the hopelessness that comes with not having anything to do, and I think we underestimate how bad that can be. There's a huge. That is something that I've experienced in so many ways. That, because for me personally, I remember 2012 was my worst year of my life because I had nothing to look forward to. I was just there, and people underestimate how hopeless you can get when you have nothing, absolutely nothing to do, and some people will think that maybe when you're constantly doing something, it's an escape. But of course, there's a degree to where you are constantly doing and never pausing to think. That is very different from you trying to deal with hopelessness by doing something. So I think, thank you for sharing that aspect, that especially after graduation, you've not been prepared well enough for the outside world, and people expect you to be an adult who knows what they're doing because you've been given the power to read. And then you're thinking, what? I don't even know where to start. I don't have a job. I don't have connections. This is a country where it's who you know that matters a lot more than what you know. And that is a sad reality. And thank you for shedding light on that, because that is something that we really, really underestimate. And especially if you've been removed from that experience for too long. Like maybe you are somebody who already has a job, or who graduated and got a job immediately, or if you've been working for such a long time that you're removed from the experience of that period of after graduation, what you're supposed to do. I think it's a very underestimated thing, and I hope whoever is listening today and they are in such a place, trust us that you know what you're going through, because you've been there exactly at that place, and we are here for you. You can reach out whenever for us to speak and chat about that situation. So you've been working with clients for a long time, since back as a third year student, as you've mentioned, up to now, and you mentioned that you work with youth. Working with youth and working for such a long time, what is something that you've learned from them that you feel those clients have taught you during that period that you would not have learned if you were not working with young people and you have not worked for that long? What would that look like?
I'll mention both negative and positive, because I feel like there's a balance to those. I realized not just the youth, but okay, I'm also a youth. Our generation, we have a problem with comparison, in the sense that, we want to make it and make it now, So every time I talk to youths, every time I'm in an engagement with youth, that's always the narrative, that we want to make it and make it now. So our generation has lost that concept of baby step, trusting the process and everything. And that, if you look at it, that's what causes, depression, in terms of you compare yourself. You realize we graduated with so-and-so, and sahi bako wanaendesha gari and whatnot, na mi bado nang'ang'ana na matatu. So you want to be where they are without necessarily, working the process and everything, and that causes depression. So I realized gratitude is very important. Reminding yourself of those little things that are working out for you. Those little things every day. For me, I have a concept of gratitude that most people find it hard to do. So I always tell my clients to go through, I call it a 26, 13, 5. So for the next 5 days, be grateful for 26 things. 13 easy, 13 hard. 13 easy are things to do with, I'm grateful I woke up. I'm grateful I'm alive. I'm grateful I've had a meal today. I'm grateful sikupata jam and everything. Hard things are things like maybe wasimutao. Instead of seeing the bad thing in it, see the goodness in it. At least I can save up and buy a better phone. You get? So always try to look for the positivity in the negative things that are happening. So once you do that, you realize you're more blessed than you actually thought you are, and it gives you that sense of tomorrow can be better. So it gives you also that sense of drive. So that's one thing I've learned, even through taking my clients through it, that aspect of gratitude, being grateful and trusting the process. So that is one thing that I've really learned, and I also practice it. Apart from asking my clients to do it, I also practice it, and it changes things. You'll find you wake up with a very different vibe to it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I like what you've mentioned. I like what you mentioned, the 26, 13, 5, right? Yes, that one. I like that because it puts a very distinct difference, like marker, between feeling gratitude and practicing gratitude. And we can spend a lot of time talking about feeling gratitude, feeling grateful, being grateful for what you have. But then it is where the rubber hits the road, when you have to practice gratitude. And practicing gratitude has nothing to do with feelings, because feelings come and go. And if we keep insisting that everybody needs to feel grateful for where they are, for what they have all the time, it's like we are defining what kind of what feelings are acceptable and what feelings are not acceptable. And I feel like it limits people from understanding that feelings come and go, feelings are fleeting, and what stays put after the feelings have come and gone is that daily practice of gratitude. I think that's quite an important step that you've made. Thank you so much for sharing that, and I hope our audience will listen to that and practice in their day-to-day lives. Let me take a moment to recognize Nkirote wa Nyeusi, and Marianne is here with us again, and Boldilocks 254, thank you for joining, and Michael Mutugi, thank you so much for joining the live as well. So with everything we have discussed and everything that you've told me about the kind of work that you do, it sounds like you have a lot on your plates. You are working with many organizations, you're partnering with so many people, you have a board, you have people in and out of your organization every single day. How do you ensure that you do not burn out? Because that is a thing that happens to mental health professionals left, right, and center. And how do you take care of yourself? What's your self-care practice?
First is knowing your limits. For me, I know my limits. If I feel like the hardest challenge for me has been organizing events, because one, you don't know how they will turn out. You keep on following up with potential sponsors and whatnot, so it becomes very hectic. So for me, I know what my limits are. So anytime I feel I'm hitting my limits, like I said, we have a team. So I normally let someone who is, who I give the job to someone else to do, and then all I'll do is just follow up and check up where what have you done and whatnot. I'm very heavy on self-care, and most importantly, sleep. If I feel some type of way, I'll always take a break and sleep, and wake up and try it again the next time. So I feel like the most important thing is knowing your limits, knowing what your limits are, and respecting your body. Because at times I know we will feel like si feel kufanya hivi, but you're like, let me just keep pushing and everything. So, no, for me, I respect my limits and I respect my body. So if I feel I can't do it, then I won't do it. Because one, I really want my services and whatever it is that I do to be, A1, to be 100. So I know if I do it 50-50, then it won't turn out the way it is. So I'm heavy on that. I'm also heavy on mental health days and mental health breaks. So if I feel like it's too much for me, I'm going to take a mental health day and just lays out the whole day until now the following day. So, but if I take a break, then I know the next day I'll have to do double the work, because now I have to compensate on this other day. So yes, I've learned to understand my limits, and I've learned to be more self-aware, and practice emotional intelligence. When we talk about emotional intelligence, people think it has to do with emotions, but I know you know this. Emotional intelligence is divided into 4: self-awareness, self-management, in terms of how do you manage yourself, in terms, are you that person who always procrastinates things? Do you know how to manage your own self, hygiene and whatnot? It talks about relationship management and also social awareness. So once you practice all this, you become emotional intelligence. So I'm very intentional on this for, domains in terms of, understanding myself and knowing when to push and when not, when to take a break and when to delegate if need be. Yes.
Yeah, I think that's an important aspect. Marianne says agrees with you. She says delegate. I agree. Mental health days should be compulsory. That is very true. You can't run on fumes. And you have to be very vigilant to make sure that you do not burn out trying to put out all the fires that exist in the world. Because when there's no you, there's no working. There's no any of the things that you're trying to pursue. So yeah, I think that's a very important thing. So we are coming very close to the end of this session, this conversation of ours, which is really fun so far. And I am curious about what you think more Kenyans need to learn about mental health, what more Kenyans need to know about mental health and therapy in general, and even especially now, maybe as we are getting in the festive season, what are some things that you think people should be doing to make sure that during the festive season you remain tip-top shape when it comes to your mental health, and you do not end up cursing the Christmas season, saying it's the worst, yet it's maybe something that you're not doing. What does that sound like from your end?
So I'll say what I've mentioned. I feel like 3/4 of this conversation: self-awareness. Know your limits. Know when to take a break. Know when to push. Just understand yourself. Apply emotional intelligence. I know with emotional intelligence, I know with this drinking period, this festive period, people drink a lot. So with self-awareness comes drinking intelligence. How many bottles do I need to take? So once you understand yourself, you know how much you need to push. Do you need to drink? Do you need to stop drinking? Because again, we don't want you to overindulge in certain things, and then come January, we're starting to have other issues of you managed your finances wrong, and kids have to go to school and whatnot. You're here having drinking issues. Like you need to now start doing therapy for addiction and whatnot. Because again, there's a very thin line when it comes to addiction and just drinking for the sake of it. So I feel like emotional intelligence and self-awareness is a key thing that people need to practice during this festive season. Don't be that person that beshtako atakuliza uko ushatoka. Like, understand yourself. See, am I in that mood to hang out with people? Because I know most people don't know this, but trust you me, come January you will have more clients than you've had over the years. When I used to work at Mathari, we used to have more clients after 31st because of how the whole December thing has gone and everything. So I feel like people really need to understand their limits. When I talk about understanding your limit, understand your limits vis-a-vis your 8 dimensions, in terms of your finances, in terms of your social, in terms of your family and whatnot. So make sure all these areas are balanced. So that's what I'd say.
Yeah, I think that's important. Marianne says it's Drinksember in January and unatoka na charger na jackets, which is very true. It's somebody said that you leave the house going to buy bread and you find yourself in Nanyuki and you don't know how you ended up there. Yeah, and you're just wearing your slippers and pajamas. You had gone for bread, and somehow you end up in Nanyuki because it's December and the parties pop up left, right, and center. So that's very true. What are some resources that you have come across during your time as a mental health professional that you think would be useful for the audience to check out in case they don't have access to a therapist maybe right now, or just something that you think would be useful to help build that kit that people have for taking care of themselves, to develop that self-awareness? What are some resources that people can check out to take care of themselves?
I'd say the mental health support groups that are out there, virtual and in person. I feel like it's very important for people to start engaging, meeting and networking with, mental health support groups. I know many organizations have either online or in person. It comes in handy because now you have a group of people you can get to talk to. You're going through maybe similar things. You realize you're not the only one. nothing, like they say, there's nothing new under the sun, so you get to interact with them. So that is one of them. Another thing that I feel that people should practice, or I feel like it's I don't want to say ignorance, but let me say ignorance. There's so many free mental health services out there that people don't, because I know one thing is, if you ask someone, why don't you go for therapy, the one thing that they'll say is it's expensive. But then again, when you do your research, you'll realize places like KNH, I keep on saying this on every talks that I engage in so that people can understand. KNH offers free therapy sessions to youths, people under 25. So you can just walk in and see a therapist. Mathari offers it at a fee of 500 bob in-person session. That is very affordable. You get, so I feel like Red Cross has a toll-free number, Chiromo has a toll-free number. So I feel like once you understand this, anytime una feel uko down, uko low and everything, you can just call the toll-free number and you can have someone on the other end talk to you instead of, talking to your friend. And another thing that I keep on saying is, you're not your friend's therapist. Do not become a therapist to your friend, because it doesn't work. So instead of you talking to your friends and everything, you can talk to your friends, but do not talk to them in terms of therapy. Get that help, call the toll-free number, go to KNH if you can, go to Mathari if you can, it's free and everything. So I feel that is something that most, will come in handy in such conversations.
Yeah, that's very true. In every video, I think I usually attach a link to some free mental health services. I know NMS has many facilities that are offering psychological services, both psychiatric and counseling. And if only you could Google and specifically put in the search for what you're looking for. Free therapy services in Nairobi, free therapy services in Kenya, you will find that answer. It will come up, you'll find so many options. Please go ahead and do that. I think that's an important thing. So, Nkatha, this has been a wonderful conversation. I've thoroughly enjoyed listening to you, learning from you, hearing your perspective on things. I really appreciate you taking your time to be here with us. You could be anywhere in the world, but you chose this wonderful Thursday to come and hang out with us on the first day of December. And I really appreciate that. If somebody is listening to this conversation and they're thinking, I want to work with Nkatha for whichever kind of project, maybe on hard stuff, or maybe I want to do therapy with Nkatha, what is the easiest way for them to find you and get in touch with you?
So you can reach us at hugs.co.ke. So that's our IG handle. You can send us an email at info@hugs.co.ke. Yes, and you can reach us at any social media. Mine at Nassim.Nkatha. Nassim_Nkatha is my IG, whatever. So you can easily reach out, inbox me, and I'll get back to you.
Yes. Okay, fantastic. I think that's very straightforward, and I think that's a good thing. So we'll be sharing that information, of course, in the description box of this video. This video goes out on Facebook, it goes to YouTube as well, and it will be here on Instagram, if I can find a way to join it together with the other part that went missing in the beginning. And with that said, I think this is a wonderful time for us to come to the end of this conversation. I don't know if, Nkatha, you have any parting shot that you would like to share before we end this conversation, maybe something you want to say to the audience before we end the live.
So if any of you has ever been in any talks that have facilitated, my parting shot has and will always be kind with your words, not just to anyone else, but also to yourself. Be kind with your words to everyone else and also yourself. Be very mindful of what you're saying to people, what you're telling, yourself, because you never know. Maybe whatever your word is, what someone was, hoping to hold on to. So, I want to quote someone. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, "A kind word is a form of charity." So if you want to practice charity, practice kindness, practice, a kind word. So always learn to be kind with your words to people and to yourself. So that's my parting shot.
Yeah, I think that's a wonderful thing. It's important. Kindness is the thing that makes us human. So I think it's important for us to adhere to that, and I agree with you completely. So thank you so much, Nassim, for coming to this live, and thank you very much to our audience who have come through and stuck with us through the entire period of this 1 hour. I appreciate your time and I appreciate your presence. next week, I will see you again here with another wonderful mental health professional. We'll be talking about the work they do, why they do it, and how they do it. And again, we'll be sharing all the mental health information that we have with you. So if you need any services, mental health services, of course, you can reach out to Infinity Wellness Consultants. And as Nkatha has mentioned, Hugs is available for you as well. We'll be linking their information in the description box of this video as well. So thank you so much, and I wish you all a wonderful evening, and I will see you next time, next week, same day, same time. Thank you very much, and bye-bye. Bye, Nkatha.
Bye. Bye. Have a good one.
And you too.